One of the things that I did like from a philosophical standpoint with the Bears with this year's NFL draft is the fact that they went after offense. A lot of offense. And that was absolutely the right thing to do, especially once you made the decision to go trade up from 20 to 11 to go get Justin Fields, and you're saying, hey, we're forsaking the first and fourth round picks in next year's draft. Like, the moment that you make the deal and the moment that you go up to get Justin Fields, you must do what you failed to do entirely with Mitchell Trubisky. Now, Trubisky sucked on his own and failed for his own reasons, which are a lot due to him and his lack of skills, and some of it's due to the coaching and situations he was put in by Matt Nagy, but also some of it was due to the prioritization of the roster built by Ryan Pace. Like, it was a group community team effort. It really, really was. That led to the absolute failure of Mitchell Trubisky. So I appreciate the fact that you can make mistakes, but you better learn from them. And you better not repeat them. And it feels like the Bears at least learned from some of those mistakes. We'll see, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, Tevin Jenkins could be a Hall of Famer. And one or two of these other guys they took on day 3 could be like quality starters. Maybe one of them even makes some Pro Bowls. But if Fields sucks and he's a bust, then none of it matters. It was still a crappy draft. Meanwhile, if Fields becomes a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback and maybe a top 5 to 8 in the league quarterback, like, the rest of the draft doesn't matter. But if you want to help your young quarterback, you got to give him pieces on the offensive side of the ball. Everything has to change now. Everything. It is offense first, offense second, offense third. Ignore the idiots that say defense wins championships. It doesn't anymore. And that's been proven time after time after time. It just doesn't matter. It's nice. You got to be able to score points. And you have to have that stud quarterback to win. You just do. So you feel like you've gotten that stud quarterback, and time will tell whether or not you have. Then you better do every goddamn thing you possibly can to help him. And I feel like the Bears, at least with the picks that they had left in their strategy in day 2 and day 3, did their best to try and help him. And Khalil Herbert from Virginia Tech is another example of a pick made for the offensive side of the ball, a pick designed to give Justin Fields another piece to support him, another piece to help him, another cog in the wheel in that offense. And I happen to like this pick quite a bit. I like this pick more than I did the Borum pick. I really do. I really, really do. And, you know, it's like with Herbert, it's interesting because he was at Kansas and then he lost his job. Wasn't getting the opportunities that maybe he wanted. So he transfers to Virginia Tech and he had his year, and I think he did well to make the most of the situation. He really, really did. And when you watch him and watch his games, you see quite a bit that you like. He runs with great patience. He really does. He allows the blocking to develop. The way I'll put it is like somebody you would look at that would almost have like the prototype of patience that you want in the back is somebody like a Le'Veon Bell. There's one thing you could absolutely say about Le'Veon Bell is he ran with tremendous patience and control. That said, Le'Veon Bell would get to the point that he waited too long. He was too patient. I don't think Herbert quite crosses that line. I think he's patient enough, but when he does see something, man, he could quickly react to it and make something happen. He's got fantastic vision to be able to see the holes and also see downfield, like where the defenders are coming from, where his running lane is. Like when you take that mix, that balance of patience and vision, one without the other doesn't do a whole lot of good. It really doesn't. But if you compare both of them together at a high level, which I think Herbert does, you've got the foundations of somebody that, you know, can always find yardage to gain at the National Football League level. He's got just enough speed to be able to turn to and get to the corner. He's not a blazer. He's not a home run speed type of guy, but he'll surprise you a little bit, you know, that he might bounce it up inside and then he might recognize something, be able to bounce it outside. He will deceive you a little bit. Like, again, not a burner, not explosive, and nothing like that at all. But he's got enough of it. You'll be surprised. He's got a little bit more football speed than you might anticipate. He'll deliver a pop as a downfield runner. I like that he ran with some physicality. He was somebody that, you know, seemed pretty difficult consistently to be able to tackle with just one guy, just tackle with arm tackles. He's an effort runner who breaks some of those arm tackles. And I always seem to see him in 2020 at Virginia Tech, he always seemed like he was falling forward. He was picking up an extra yard or two. And those things matter. They make a difference. You like those guys that don't just get stood up in the hole. Like, he's a guy that was a little slippery, that had the ability to break through some of that and get that extra yardage. I really like that. He also brings some versatility with him, with his kick return experience, especially for the Bears, talking about letting go of Cordero Patterson. Herbert might be positioned potentially to take over as a kick returner, or he's an option. Like, when you're a guy like Herbert and you're a 6th-round pick and you're trying to figure out ways that you could stick on the team and you could get some playing time, you could make an impact. He's got some kick return experience, and he showed well for himself at moments at Virginia Tech in 2020 in that role. Like, that might be his way that he sticks on the roster initially. That might be his way that he could potentially have some impact. Ball security was pretty good, too. He almost ran like with the Tiki Barber type of style, the ball really high and really close to his body. When Tiki Barber figured it out, that's when he stopped fumbling. Like, Herbert runs with a kind of similar style. This is a solid back. It's the type of guy that, while he lacks the juice and burst that you might dream of, like, you don't want that to mask over the fact that he brings several other good elements to the table out of the backfield. That said, there's a reason he lasted until the 6th round. There is a reason that he lasted until day 3. He does lack that great burst, and he does take time to get up to speed. He lacks explosiveness in his cuts, especially when you talk about jump cuts and sudden movements. He takes time to gather and redirect. He's got that lack of true home run speed. And, like, you watch Herbert sometimes, and you think you might be watching a 6-foot, 235-pound back. He feels a little lumbering at times in his movements and his motions, and he's all of like maybe 5'9", 215, 212. Like, you feel like he should be a little quicker and a little faster than what he actually is. And you can say, well, he's running with a lumbering style, but he also doesn't run like a true powerhouse down the field, I'm going to smash your face in type of runner either. Even more so concerning, I think, as what leads to a guy like him falling to day 3 is he's not much of a pass catching option. He's got some shaky hands, limited route tree, limited experience doing it. Lacks the strength and technique to hold up in pass protection. So, sometimes on 3rd down, you might need that back to chip and help out with a blitzer or an edge rusher. You're not going to get a lot of help from him in this way. So you talk about a guy like him and you say, like, what's the package that you're getting here? You're saying that he doesn't have great size for the position. He's got average size at best, but he doesn't run with great burst or explosiveness or speed. He doesn't run with great force, physicality, power. His contact balance is very good, but he doesn't run with a ton of power. Like, what exactly are you getting here? Well, I think you're getting the type of back you would expect to see on day 3, with some limitations, but a guy that could also be productive in certain roles in certain spots. But it's going to come down to his ability to develop in the passing game. That's what's going to determine his true upside. If he can be better in pass protection in terms of holding up, in terms of recognizing his assignments, and he can be a little bit more of an option in the passing game, right, he has a chance to significantly outplay his draft position here. He does have featured back ability in terms of his vision, his patience, contact balance, his ability to gain extra yardage. And he doesn't do it in a spectacular fashion always. But some of the things he does from a vision and patience standpoint, I think, are absolutely outstanding. Those are the types of things that I project to him, and I say, man, excuse me, if he had more of the physical skills, you're talking about a 2nd to 3rd round back, not a 6th round back. Problem is, though, he also lacks the true size and power and physicality and just kind of brute force of intent of a bell cow feature between the tackles power back. He's like the epitome almost of a tweener. He's got a lack of great athleticism, agility, movement skills. He's got a lack of great strength. Like, he's a tweener. He's a little too small, a little too slow foot. Like, what do you do with these guys? I think you could do something with this guy. I really do. I had a 4th round grade on him, and here's why. That vision, that patience. There is a little bit of speed there that is surprising. No, he's not the most elusive or shifty of runners, that's for sure. But he's a guy that vision and patience could set up tremendously well for him. He would be the type of guy that I would look at and say, man, if you got him into some type of zone blocking, zone running scheme, like, he might be able to have a couple of really good years as kind of like a feature back. I actually believe that. I think there is some starting back potential on first and second downs. And you drafting a guy like this in the 6th round, you're typically targeting him more to be like you're going to be a kick returner, you're going to be a third down back, you're going to be a change of pace guy. And his change of pace is just going to be more between the tackles running for David Montgomery, where maybe you're utilizing Tariq Cohen more as a pass catcher. But, comparisons to me, he reminds me a little bit in terms of his running style of a Steve Slayton going back to his West Virginia days, and maybe a Mike Davis. Those are some of the guys that jumped out at me at different points and different skills in terms of the comparison for Khalil Herbert. But I had a 4th round grade on him. I liked what I saw. Yes, there were limitations, and those are the limitations that kept him from being a day 2 back. When you're talking about day 3 and you're talking about in the 6th round, you're able to get a guy with this vision, this patience, who runs well enough. You like your chances of this guy making the roster and having a little bit of an impact, especially with some of the kick return experience he has. Like, if you were asking me, my opinion right now, if I look at a guy like Herbert, and you said, okay, David Montgomery goes down with an injury, who do you want to be the feature back that next week? Do you want it to be Tariq Cohen or do you want it to be Khalil? I want it to be Khalil. Because I think his skills more naturally transition to kind of like that feature back type of runner. I think his upside is somewhat limited, but man, you watch him, I'm telling you, the more you watch him as a runner in 2020 at Va Tech, like the more you really start to like this kid and he really grows on you. And I think in terms of day 3 picks, like I thought this was an outstanding one that had me really excited when they took Khalil Herbert.